Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo to have his bail conditions extended continued in the Mthatha High Court today, and it certainly took place not without incident earlier.
The court proceedings got off to a confusing start, with King Dalindyebo's initial legal counsel withdrawing from the case. Once the logistics were resolved, Advocate Nazim Omar, representing the king, fired the first salvo.
This issue was never raised
And accused the justice system of treating Dalindyebo unfairly.
King Dalindyebo, my lady, has got a right to a fair trial. The English courts, the Constitutional Court, Mthatha Mjali, the High Court, have all found that if a trial is continued in the absence of an assessor who passed away during the trial, that takes the trial of unfairness.
I'm not saying he's delaying, I'm saying issues are getting raised on a piecemeal basis, and finality is one of the considerations. Our courts must reach finality.
Omar is arguing for the case to be retried.
We can't deny King Dalindyebo a right which is given to him by law.
Whatever decision this court must take must have a legal basis. Not so.
My lady,
Whether it's going to be considered by another court or not, the question is there any legal basis for a consideration? This court must decide on that one.
The status of the argument.
The state prosecutor was concerned by the points raised by the defense.
Qualify my objection. I
Yes.
indicated I don't want to be out of order. But the way my colleague conducts this matter leaves me with serious doubt. We decided and we agreed, and it was explained to me when I argued this matter. We agreed this morning with Mr. Mthatha that we will deal only with the issues of jurisdiction and finality. Now he's elaborating.
King Dalindyebo was due to hand himself over to the Mthatha Correctional Facility to begin serving his 12-year jail term. Nozuko Mjali, SABC News.
So that was the king trying to stay out of jail, and one of the things that we've just reported was that he changed legal representation. His old lawyers saying that he knew nothing about a document that the National Prosecuting Authority has been investigating the origins of what they say is a bogus document which set aside all convictions against the Thembu king Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo. Well, the MPA's Nozuko Mjali says that they received the document yesterday from Dalindyebo's camp. Well, to tell us what's happened on an eventful day, we now cross to our reporter, Zimkita Manlinana, who's in Mthatha. Zimkita, thanks for joining us. It's been an eventful 2 days, but has the case finally come to an end?
Well, Peter, the NPA and the Justice Department are saying this is the end of the case right now. The only piece of the puzzle that is left now is for the king to hand himself over immediately after his application was dismissed by the Mthatha High Court. Failure to do so will lead to him being apprehended because a committal warrant is already in the hands of the police, and the police now will go to his residence to find out from him whether he's submitting himself on his own or will like to be assisted to make his way to Wellington prison. So as things stand at this stage, the defense team of the king is very disappointed, saying that they should have been given other platforms to have the case reopened so that they can state their case. However, the judge today did not give them that chance, emphasizing that this court cannot overturn a ruling that was made by the Supreme Court of Appeal and also by the Constitutional Court.
All right, let's just backtrack a little bit, because we have a bogus document, whether it's bogus or not, that the MPA was challenging, that the king had said sort of exonerated him from all charges. But we also saw his old counsel saying they knew nothing about this and they withdrew from the case. So a lot of things happened to get us to this point. Just take us through that, and then we'll discuss what happens next.
inside court, the judge was very strict, Peter. She only wanted to deal with the items that were on paper, which were the application for the extension of bail and also the application of the matter to be relooked pending the decision by the Justice Minister, and that one was scrapped off already because the decision was already made by the Minister yesterday. And then they dealt now with the application of bail, which there was no urgency in it, which she also dismissed with cost. The issue of the papers that the king handed over to the NPA yesterday, she did not deal with them because she wanted to deal with only the items that were in paper. However, the investigation into those papers is continuing on its separate way with the NPA, and they still want to track down who the source of those papers were and why those papers were given to the king, because they think the papers actually misled the king because he was excited yesterday saying that he has been granted what he was applying for, a reopening of his case and relook into the matter. So now police are preparing to go and apprehend him and find out where he is, whether he has already handed himself over to prison, because he was given until end of business day to do so, pending this judgment. Now that the judge has given her verdict on the matter, then there's no option for the king but to hand himself over. Failure to do so will lead to police apprehending him.
All right, and the defense lawyers, as you said, they said they're disappointed, but it seems as if there's not much more they can do at this stage. So all eyes on the king's residence at this time. Have you heard anything from the National Prosecuting Authority, the Correctional Services Department, or the police as to exactly what they're going to do next?
We've been told by the Justice Department that the head of correctional services in the region of the Eastern Cape has already come to Mthatha, so that when the king needs to report to him, he is readily available to assist him with his needs and submitting him, because the process will be lengthy, Peter. Once he goes to Wellington prison, he'll be assessed, and once he's assessed, he'll be put in a category, in which kind of prisoner will he fit in, and then he'll be given a prison number and a cell which he will spend his 12 years in. So it's going to be a very lengthy process, but for now everyone is focusing on his homestead, whether he will move out on his own or whether the supporters that were here in the afternoon in court will be with him when he makes his way to Wellington prison. So it was very full here a few minutes ago, but just after the judgment and the announcement by the Justice Department that the only step that's left now is for him to hand himself over, everyone who was here moved to his residence to see how he's going to perform that act of going to Wellington prison.
Do we even know for certain if he's at his residence at this time?
Nobody knows at this time, Peter. But surely when we spoke to his lawyers just after the judgment by the judge, they mentioned that though the king is very disappointed with the outcome of the proceedings here today, he will submit himself. He will not act unlawfully, and he has tried many avenues to try to have his matter reopened. But they are saying that they won't go down without a fight. But today they understand that there is no other avenue of postponing his submission to Wellington prison. So he will do that part. Meanwhile, his legal team tried to seek other avenues legally of getting him out of jail. But today they say the king will definitely go and hand himself over, because they've been told if he doesn't do so, then police will have to assist him.
Have you been able to gauge or get a sense of the feelings of the people on the ground? I would imagine that there are some that are still supporting the king, and particularly the families of the victims that perhaps are just wanting this chapter to be closed now.
Today we didn't see supporters of the victims. It was just the supporters of the king, and they were very disappointed also, Peter, after the proceedings. No one even wanted to speak to any journalist. They were very disappointed with the outcomes, because they thought the outcomes would be different here. They thought the king would be given an extension of bail and wouldn't go to prison and would actually spend New Year's Eve and New Year with them. But all of that now is not going to happen, because today he has to submit himself. We are told that there will be a meeting, because once he goes into Wellington prison, then someone has to occupy the seat that he was in as the king of Thembu. So a meeting will be held tomorrow to try and discuss who now will take over the spear.
Is there a likely successor at this stage?
The king announced in October that he wants his son, Dalindyebo, to take over when he finally makes his way to Wellington prison. But that was disputed by those who are against him, which is the right-hand house of Mthatha. Traditionally, this house usually has a voice, Peter, on the issues of succession. But now what is confusing in this matter is because they don't see eye to eye with the king. Ordinarily, they would make a suggestion to the king, and then the king would approve that and then put the person that they are putting forward. So we don't know now that the right-hand house and the king don't see eye to eye whether Azenati will be the one who will occupy the seat after the announcement that was made by the king in October, or else the right-hand house would enforce their right as the right-hand house to submit a name which they have not divulged to us at this stage.
So that's where we're going to leave it, Zimkita. Thank you very much indeed for giving us that update. Well, it seems that the legal process has come to an end, and in the coming hours, 2 timelines are going to be taking place. The first one, the king will have to present himself to a correctional facility and start serving his sentence. And the second one is that a successor needs to be found, and a meeting is going to be taking place to decide who might be the next king of the Thembu. Well, as we've just said, the Mthatha High Court has denied the Thembu king Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo's application for an extended bail. Judge Nozuko Mjali adjourned proceedings and is expected to give more detailed reasons about the judgment that took place.
To grant the following order. The application is refused on the points in limine with costs. The reasons will follow. The court will adjourn.
I need to mention that the warrant of arrest has already been prepared and signed, so law enforcement are going to apprehend the king and make sure that he is caused to report to the head of Mthatha Correctional Center. My understanding is that they are on their way to locate him wherever he is and make sure that the bail conditions that became an order of court, which come to an end by close of business today, and effectively because of the court judgment which went against the application, it means that he must go and serve his 12-year sentence.
Well, that was the spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority, Mthunzi Maga, speaking a little bit earlier on. But the story's all over now. Everybody's watching the King's residence to find out whether he's going to hand himself over. His legal story has come to an end. A successor perhaps is already being looked for, but more on that as the evening unfolds. Meanwhile, also legal problems for another famous person.